Good morning and welcome to Bongino Report, early edition. Joe Rogan revives the Pizzagate scandal. Zoomers scare the elderly with internet brain rot. CNN's CNN's transgender mice fact check is debunked as inaccurate by the White House. Meghan Markle embarrasses herself and her sycophant friends in a new Netflix show. And OnlyFans workers' actions devastate her younger brother's life. And there are rising calls to revive slut shaming. We'll talk about what that means. All this on Bongino Report, early edition. A Washington, D.C. pizzeria accused of being a front for child trafficking, linked to some of the most powerful people in the country, including Hillary Clinton. That was the internet Pizzagate scandal and controversy that really took a spiraling out of control turn. In November 2016, during the height of the US presidential election, internet sleuths on platforms like 4chan and Reddit claim to have uncovered coded language, particularly frequent mentions of pizza in the WikiLeaks published emails from John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman. The speculation quickly spiraled into a viral phenomenon, alleging connections to Clinton, high-ranking Democrat elites, and even satanic rituals. And then on December 4th, 2016, a North Carolina man named Edgar Welch stormed the pizzeria Comet Ping Pong, armed with a rifle, in an attempt to rescue the supposed child trafficking victims inside the restaurant. And he fired shots inside the restaurant, but found, predictably, that the restaurant had no basement and there were no captives. There was nothing there. And the event became the mainstream media's sort of defining moment for dismissing Pizzagate, but really just kind of all conspiracies. They're all fake and they're all dangerous because at some point a man's going to show up with a rifle and shoot into a restaurant. That was the takeaway. And today, Pizzagate is often remembered as a precursor for QAnon and broader internet-fueled paranoia around globalist pedophile cabals. It's been the focus of numerous corporate media exposés and documentaries, framed again as a sort of cautionary tale against the dangers of conspiracy. All this is true and a fair takeaway from Pizzagate, but there's another element to Pizzagate that people don't like to mention, and that's the factual, non-schizo elements of Pizzagate that were ignored by the media that, in my opinion, fueled the crazy elements that, again, went completely out of control. Pizzagate is what happens when the media lets inconvenient nuggets of truth spiral out of control simply because they don't like the story. Because here's the thing, what started this entire firestorm was actually not random internet speculation, but the actual contents of John Podesta's emails. WikiLeaks revealed that a woman named Marina Abramovich invited John Podesta's brother, Tony Podesta, to a private spirit cooking dinner at her home. And you might be wondering, what is spirit cooking? It's a good question. But first, Tony forwarded the invite to John, asking if he was interested in attending. And Abramovich is a performance artist whose work, spirit cooking, is really steeped in sort of occult imagery, blood rituals, and references to human sacrifice and cannibalism. This is not conspiracy. This is actually what her spirit cooking is all about. And the events include congealed blood, references to satanic symbolism, a lot of really disturbing invocations. And at her events, you've had Beyonce, James Franco, Lady Gaga, Jay-Z, other elites, including, of course, the Podestas, apparently. And it has really been a spiraling trigger for a lot of people on the internet. Pizzagate crazies also highlighted John Podesta's brother Tony's real and deeply disturbing art collection, featuring children hanging from ropes, restrained in these sort of bizarre positions or posed in ways that suggest captivity and abuse, and really just raises some serious questions like, who would keep this as art? Why is this art? Also, who would attend the spirit cooking situation? Like, I don't know. I would just never want to go. It just seems like a really weird thing. It seems like sort of a scary, disturbing thing. So it was very, very, very odd. And Tony Podesta also has this replica statue of the way Jeffrey Dahmer posed his victims. And this replica it's massive. If you're listening, it's massive. It's gold colored. I don't know if it's actually gold, but it's gold colored, and it's hung from the ceiling of his foyer, and it really is just a bizarre thing, again, for somebody to have as a work of art in their home. Who wants to be reminded of the way that Jeffrey Dahmer killed his victims every time you walk into your house? I don't know. I wouldn't want that. So why are we talking about this today? Well, just yesterday, Joe Rogan resurrected the discussion on his podcast with a guy named Ian Carroll. And here's what Ian Carroll said about Pizzagate and the way that it sort of spiraled.
And we're talking about the Clintons with the Haiti scandals, with the cocaine in Arkansas. It's like the thing is that we sound crazy. I sound crazy to someone that doesn't do their own research, because you just start, there's so many layers of like crazy shit that's happened with some of these people.
Yeah.
That if you don't know the history of a person like Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, it's really easy to think, oh, that's just so insane that you would think that they'd be involved in it. And first of all, they frame it in the articles about Pizzagate. They say Hillary Clinton was the mastermind of a global pedophile sex trafficking ring, all headquartered in this pizza shop, which is not what anyone ever claimed.
Right. So as soon as you can discredit that, you discredit the whole thing.
Classic frame job, which Nancy Pelosi explains very well, where you make a false claim and you say that's what they're saying, and then you discredit the false claim.
And I don't know if it's as conspiratorial as that it was really conscious and purposeful, but do I think that if there's a story about John Podesta, who's obviously very closely linked to the Hillary Clintons, that it makes him look like a creep, with his brother having bizarre art collections and he's attending these spirit cooking rituals? Yeah, I don't think the media is going to cover that because of obvious reasons, right? This is controlled information. They want to protect their friends or people that they have access to. So even if it's not conspiratorial, obviously this was not a story that was covered very widely by the corporate media, and that fueled a lot of the insanity. And let's talk about Hillary Clinton's the Haiti scandal, because Ian sort of briefly mentioned it. For years, the Clinton Foundation has been deeply involved in Haiti, presenting itself as a sort of major humanitarian force in the wake of the devastating 2010 earthquake. But instead of rebuilding Haiti, the Clintons have faced accusations of corruption, resource misallocation, and suspicious connections to a woman named Laura Silsby. She's an American so-called missionary who was arrested in Haiti trying to traffic 33 Haitian children out of the country without proper documentation. Silsby has a history of attempting to move children across borders under questionable circumstances, and was ultimately caught this time in Haiti. She was detained, she was charged, and she was convicted. Again, guys, we're sticking with the facts here. She was convicted of arranging illegal travel. And what's interesting about this case is that none other than former President Bill Clinton, who was serving as UN Special Envoy to Haiti at the time, intervened diplomatically to get Silsby's charges reduced and the earlier release of her 9 fellow supposed missionaries. Why would he do that? And I think it's worth looking into. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's something. We need people to cover these stories. We need to talk about them. And people who are in the corporate media with teams and resources to investigate what's happening here. Why would Bill Clinton spend time trying to reduce the punishment of some random woman accused initially of trafficking children? Now, that's not the actual charges that she was given, thanks to Bill Clinton, but again, very strange. And then again, you think, well, Bill Clinton was BFFs with Jeffrey Epstein, and nobody covered that. And even now that we know about Jeffrey Epstein and the heinous, awful things he was doing, nobody cared that Bill Clinton was on the Lolita Express numerous times, that Jeffrey came to the White House dozens of times, that Bill Clinton was on his island. And in fact, Bill Clinton was honored at the DNC last year. No one cares. This is not a story that they want to cover. And then that eats at people. That drives people freaking insane. Because you think, why? Why isn't this a story? Why is he allowed back in polite society? Why are we letting him deliver a speech knowing that he was BFS with this guy and was at his island? And it just doesn't make sense. And again, it drives people nuts. And everything I've shared with you, it's factual. I'm not in the business of making things up. I'm not trying to lie or to stretch things to draw conclusions when there's really nothing there. And that gets to the real issue here, is when stories like Pizzagate are dismissed entirely, and media outlets don't want to cover people like John Podesta because he's powerful and he's a powerful Democrat, he has connections to the Clintons. Well, then bad things happen. The real story gets buried, and the genuinely crazy ideas come to the forefront. And it's what drives people like Edgar Welch to do insane and dangerous things, acting on unproven information in a very dangerous way. Pizzagate, in my opinion, it's not a cautionary tale against conspiracies so much as it is what happens when the gatekeepers of information deliberately ignore real nuggets of truth, actual stories. We need curiosity from journalists, from the media apparatus, and not censorship. No taboos. We have to be able to talk about everything. Let's just throw it out there. Let's investigate and explore and in facts and in earnest. But we can't have these taboos. And understand that those gatekeepers don't just include the corporate media. People in alternative media cancel and intimidate just as much. Now, alternative media figures, they tend to be less susceptible to this kind of pressure from their peers, but trust me, it still happens. There's still pressure. And like I said, I just want to have the freedom to talk. We have to be able to discuss and investigate without the stigma, so long as the work and the research is honest. And that's why I appreciate, Joe Rogan just having a conversation about it. What was real in this thing? What was absolutely insane and schizophrenic? Let's just have that conversation. And just so everyone is abundantly clear, because I know this is a sensitive topic that again has a lot of stigma, am I saying that Hillary Clinton ran a pedophile ring out of a pizza parlor? The answer is no. No, I am not saying that. Just because we covered Pizzagate doesn't mean that I agree with everything crazy that came out of that scandal. The answer is absolutely not. I'm saying we should openly discuss and further investigate actual elements of the story. So the crazy theories, like Hillary Clinton running a sexual trafficking ring out of a pizza parlor, don't overpower the nuggets of truth. You guys, I actually had a discussion with Dan yesterday. It's pretty funny. I had a discussion with Dan yesterday. I was like, Dan, watch my podcast. Tell me what you think I could do better. And he said, Evita, you need to loosen up a little bit. Laugh. You're such a serious person. Laugh a little more. You don't have to be so down and heavy on your podcast. And then the very next day, I decided to choose the heaviest topic that I could possibly pick to lead this show. So I hope Dan isn't watching, but I promise, guys, the rest of the show is going to be a little bit lighter. This is from Michael. Evita will be in the studio for a little longer. We set up Dan's set, but we will need a little longer to finalize Evita. Don't worry, it's coming. Oh, are people concerned that I'm not in the new studio? Oh, you guys are all concerned I'm not in the new studio. That's okay, you guys. We're getting things ready. This is a work in progress. The tech guys have been working extremely hard to get everything together and ready. And just so you know, Michael gets up in the morning at like 5 a.m. to start my show, sometimes earlier, and he is not coming home from work until like sometimes 8 p.m. One night, a couple nights, it was like 10 p.m. So he's working really hard. We're going to get this going, but don't be concerned. I'm just here for a time until they have everything ready and we can go in and it will be a really good set. So, all right. But like I said, you guys, I chose probably the heaviest topic I could possibly pick. And I promise the rest of the show is going to be lighter. You all can take a breath. All right. And also, I just also want to say, sorry, you guys, I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I also just want to say that a lot of these heavy things, we're talking about Pizzagate, we're talking about conspiracy, pedophile, trafficking rings, like, don't let it preoccupy you. Like, it shouldn't be the most immediate thing in your life. All the news can be really heavy these days. That's how I feel. I have to be in the news cycle. I have to be on top of things. And we really should only preoccupy ourselves predominantly with what we have control over. Our lives, our communities, our families, and impacting the real people that we actually know, that we actually can make a change with. Because otherwise, it's just going to drive you crazy. You're going to show up to a pizza parlor with a rifle. You just have to take a step back and take in life in a much more real sense, what's tangible and in front of you and you have control over. All right. So there was a heated exchange on Piers Morgan's show last night. The woman talking in this clip I'm about to play, her name is JoJo from Jers, and that's how she's known on social media. She's this left-wing internet personality, totally Trump deranged, and a suburban mom from New Jersey. Just take a listen to what she says.
Jojo, I'm going to ask you a question, a simple question.
What are you talking
Give
about?
me a simple answer, Jojo. What is a woman, Jojo?
Yes. Well, a woman is whatever. If you feel like you're a woman, then you're a woman. I know I'm a woman. I identify as a woman.
So if I feel
know
like
what
a
that
woman
means
right
to
now,
me.
I'm a woman?
I'm not threatened.
Hang on.
What would you feel
If you feel like you're a woman,
Hang
it's
on.
your identity, sure.
So hang on, just to be clear.
I'm sorry. What's a
heard
man?
you.
Piers, what's your
Just to
definition
be
of a
clear,
man?
Just
I'm
to
a
be
woman.
clear.
What's your
just to be
definition
clear,
of a man?
So just to be clear, if I feel like a woman right now, I am a woman. Is that your position?
And if you feel like you are a woman, Piers, and you want to walk around identifying as a woman, it is not my prerogative to tell you that you
Am
cannot.
I a woman?
I identify as a woman. What is
Am
a
I a
man,
woman?
Piers? What is a man?
Oh, a man
Is
is
Donald
an
Trump
adult
a man?
human.
Can I,
That's it.
Pierce, can I jump
Male.
into that question?
Adult
An adult
human,
human.
male.
An adult human
human
male.
Pierce.
Adult human male is a
An
man.
An adult
yes.
human male.
Can I
Yes.
finally
Pierce,
get
And a
can I answer
woman
that?
Like
is an
55
adult
pounds cake
human
makeup for the
female.
man, right?
Adult
Can I finally
human
get to say
female.
That's
Can
who
I
a
answer
woman is.
that?
I am a
Adult
woman. I
human
identify
male.
as a woman.
Okay,
Can I
but just to
raise
be
my
clear.
hand?
Pierce, can I answer that
Yes,
question?
hang on, Matt. I'm going to bring Matt in. I just want to just
Oh, Matt,
sort of
you
double
really
down
need
on
to
this.
stay out of this one, friend.
I just want to be clear,
You
Jojo.
don't want to go here, Matt.
Jojo said if you feel like a woman, you're a woman. So, Jojo,
Yeah.
final time. If I now say I
It's an
feel like a
identity.
woman.
It's not about
No, sorry,
biology.
I'm asking you a
It's an identity.
question. Stop
Cheers.
talking. If I now
Yeah.
say I feel like a woman, am I a woman?
God.
Am I a woman? If I say
If
I
you
feel
feel like a
one?
woman, you're a woman.
Wow.
What does that mean, though? What does that even mean?
I can't with these people. They have worms in their brains. Worms. And you wonder how psyoped somebody could possibly be. Frankly, this is kind of like Pizzagate, right? Like Hillary Clinton has a pizza parlor, child sexual trafficking ring. It's internet brain rot. It is internet brain rot. Yeah, Michael Knowles is just sitting there. I don't even know how he got through this. Michael Knowles is a really good guy, a very normal guy. I don't know how he handled it. I don't know how he got through that. It's insane. We only played like a couple minutes of it, and I was already losing my mind. And this exchange got me thinking last night about the brain rot trend on social media. You probably don't know what I'm talking about if you're not chronically online. What is brain rot? Well, brain rot describes online visuals that are so bizarre, so mind-numbing that they feel like they're rotting your brain just by looking at them. So think like heavy, distorted memes, cursed edits, chaotic sensory overload photos, surreal AI-generated art that makes no sense. That's brain rot. And there's this TikToker who's gone very viral because he has printed off colored brain rot images and he's put them inside a binder with laminated pages, and he shows these images to old people in grocery stores, and people love it. Not the old people, but people on the internet love it. The caption of this reads, "Showing brain rot to the elderly." Here is an example. If you're listening, he's showing her just the most bizarre AI-generated photos. And she's just confused. She has no idea what's going on. She thinks he's trying to tell her something, and he's not talking either.
What are you looking for?
She's so disturbed.
It's on the cover.
She takes the binder, she's like trying to go through it. It's like she's trying to crack a code. She can't. Somebody said this is elder abuse in the chat. You guys, you're right. It is elder abuse. It is. And as you see at the end of the video, she closes the binder, she gives it back. I want nothing to do with this. I can't be a part of this anymore. And okay, yeah, so this poor lady, she's horrified. But I feel like this is most older people or people who haven't been like consumed by the internet. We're all in this death spiral into further and further internet absurdity. And then when somebody who's not plugged in sees brain rot or hears something like speech is violence or chest feeding, they're just totally lost. They're like, what's happening right now? I don't even know what that means. And I wish I didn't know what that means. I envy them. When I saw that binder in the TikToks, I knew exactly what it was. I'm like, this is brain rot. This is AI art. This is insanity. This is absurdity. But I knew what it was. It wasn't like I was confused by it. And I wish I was. I wish I was that old lady who had no idea what she was looking at. Like, you could tell, like, she's the innocence in her. She's an old lady, but there's an innocence to her. And I envy it, because ignorance in this sense really is bliss. There are people in this country, probably mostly over 65, who have never heard of Trisha Paytas or transgender mice. Yes, you guys remember transgender mice from Trump's address this week? I want you to take a listen to Trump and transgender mice, which, again, brain rot, you guys, it's a thing.
$8 million for making mice transgender. This is real.
It is real, but CNN said it's not real. So last night, yesterday morning, my goodness, you guys, my brain's not working. So they posted after Trump's speech yesterday morning a fact check. They said, fact check false. Said, actually, there are no transgender mice. This was not a thing that we were funding for millions of dollars. They said only about $500,000 have been allocated to similar research on monkeys, but not mice. So fact check false from CNN. But actually, the fact check false is false, because the White House released a statement listing 6 NIH grants for studies on hormone treatments in mice, a combined total of $8.2 million for this research. So President Trump was right. And then CNN was forced to correct this article, but they did something really annoying in this correction that they made. Usually you just be like, okay, I'm going to take the L. I made a huge mistake. Obviously, this is real. CNN didn't do that because they are prideful and they're obnoxious. And so instead they said Trump falsely claimed to this claim needs context. So initially it said Trump falsely claimed transgender mice, blah, blah, blah. Now it says this claim needs context. And the context, and this, I kid you not, the context that they give is, we need these studies to help transgender people. So like, okay, we're still funding it. Most of America says it's completely unnecessary and ridiculous. And CNN's like, well, this misses context because actually it's a great thing. You know how they say this isn't the evolution of the left, or they'll say, well, this isn't happening. And then you find out it is something, well, it is happening and it's good. You know what I mean? Like, this is how they operate. This is always how it goes. And I'll also say, you know, this is brain rot. It's not as overt as AI generated disturbing absurdity, but it's still brain rot. These studies, the ideology, chest feeding, men can be women. This is all brain rot. This is the internet taking over the real world and stealing our money to go towards these brain rot experiments. Which, speaking of, yes, we are going to discuss more brain rot, which is Meghan Markle's latest documentary. We have to. It's so absurd that we have to talk about it. It's brain rot that I can't help but share with you guys because it's so bad, it's good. So our good friend, Meghan Markle, who Dan doesn't like to cover, but we're going to talk about Meghan Markle because this is not Dan's show. We're going to talk royals every once in a while, not all the time, but every once in a while. So Meghan Markle, the former princess of the UK, she left. Now she's the butt of South Park jokes. She's really descended. She's fallen from grace. And she just released her Netflix show, With Love, Meghan. And this is part of a $100 million deal that she signed with Netflix. Now, what's unique here is this show isn't dedicated to trashing her in-laws. It's the first time, you guys. First time Meghan Markle is doing a show not dedicated to trashing her in-laws or her own family. And instead, it's basically just an ego trip where Meghan Markle invites her sycophant celebrity friends to her house, and they praise her endlessly while she lectures them about homemaking and her multi-million-dollar home, all while being presented as somehow relatable to regular people. So think Martha Stewart, but insufferable. Here is Meghan Markle embarrassing her friend for daring to call Meghan Markle by her name, Meghan Markle.
I don't think anyone in the world knows that Meghan Markle has eaten Jack in the Box and
so
loves
funny,
it.
too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now. You have kids and you go, no, I share my name with my children.
Yes.
And that feels so, I didn't know how meaningful it would be to me, but it just means so much to go, this is our family name.
Okay. Meghan Markle gave up the title Her Royal Highness. She gave it up. She has no official duties. She's not associated with the monarchy. And now she's demanding that we call her, Meghan Sussex? I hate to break it to you, Meghan, but you're a commoner now. You're a commoner again. No one's going to call you Your Royal Highness Meghan Markle or Meghan Sussex. Your name is Meghan Markle. So then after all that, this is the woman, her friend that she's invited over. Her name is Mindy Kaling. She was famous for The Office, other things. She's kind of a comedy writer too. So Mindy Kaling proceeds to then compliment Meghan, which is a theme throughout this entire show. And I hate to do this to you guys, but this is what that looked like.
Meghan, I want to ask about your look.
My who?
Your look. Your look, Meghan.
Oh, my Luke.
Your look. Did I not say it right?
I don't know. I mean, like, you're way cooler than I am. I don't know what you're talking. My Luke. My look. She likes my Luke.
Your look.
Oh my gosh.
Your fashion is like one of my favorite things.
Your fashion is like one of my favorite things. Like, I don't know, you guys. Who is this for? Chat, who is this for? And I'll tell you who it's for. It's for women, right? Women are supposed to love this show. And I think as women, we deserve better than this. I can't emphasize enough how dumb this show is. The absurdity of Meghan Markle's insistence on being called Sussex, the overall premise of With Love, it highlights a disconnect that feels almost comical in its self-importance. It's a multi-million-dollar production that feels like a desperate grasp for relevance and cash rather than a genuine connection with viewers. It's so staged. It's so fake. Also the kind of the millennial gray, it's not millennial, I say it's millennial white kitchen, like everything about it is so staged and inauthentic. I can't relate to that. I don't get it. It's content for the sake of content. It is meaningless. And again, it's brain rot. Guys, I saw this yesterday and I needed to discuss it on the show. This is an interview with a OnlyFans model, so essentially an online prostitute, and her little brother. I want you to first watch how she tries to justify to her little brother, who is clearly mortified by his sister's line of work. Here she is trying to justify selling herself online.
I don't know why you're so set on going to college. Like, just don't, be an entrepreneur like me and be successful that way.
Entrepreneur? You only that's not being an entrepreneur.
Yes, it is. It's a business.
You sell pictures of yourself online. That's not being an entrepreneur.
Okay, well, if you think I'm not a f***ing entrepreneur, let's go band for band.
Band for band?
Let's go band for band. I bought dad a f***ing car. I'm about to pay off mom's f***ing mortgage. I'll pay for your f***ing college. You don't think that's a f***ing entrepreneur? Then I don't know what the f*** is.
That's just using your money.
That I make through the business of OnlyFans.
Yeah, but that's the business, not being an entrepreneur.
Whatever, I'm not gonna argue with the 10-year-old.
I'm not 10!
OnlyFans is not being an entrepreneur. Her brother cooked her. Like, what is she even talking about? She's starting an account on a pre-existing platform and claiming that she's being an entrepreneur. That's like me saying, I monetize my account on X and I'm an entrepreneur for tweeting. Like, what? That's not an entrepreneur. There's no risk in that. This is like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And also, more importantly, guys, if I did OnlyFans, if I was an online prostitute and I offered to buy my parents a car or pay off their mortgage, they would throw the money in my face. Like this, no one's accepting that. That will be obscene, unheard of. Whose parents feel okay with benefiting off of their daughter prostituting herself online? And here's where it gets really rough in the interview. I want you to take a listen to this young man explain to his sister how her behavior has impacted him.
Do you really think I'm not a good sister?
Well, it's not that you're not a good sister. It's just you got to think that your actions don't just have, it doesn't affect not just only you, but it also affects me. Like, next year, I'm going to be applying for colleges, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do that with things that are on the internet. I might not even be able to get a girlfriend because people, they already know. In public, people ask me, do you really like your sister? Do you really approve of this? I actually don't think this could work in my future.
Christian, with everything that I'm doing, I've never once wanted it to affect you like this. Bro, I'm sorry. I really don't want it to affect you.
There's nothing else I could say. Like, you everything up. I'm leaving.
Bro.
Yeah, you guys, these people that do OnlyFans, they're not just unconnected to the world, and these people have families, brothers and parents, and sometimes husbands, boyfriends. I mean, like, this affects people, and I don't feel like a lot of times these OnlyFans online prostitutes even consider the people in their lives and how it impacts them. Like, I mean, on its face, I think it's wrong to sell yourself online, of course, but I saw that video of that young boy, and I was reminded of my little brother. Like, he kind of reminded me of my brother, and sort of in that awkward stage, and you're trying to, make friends at school and have a normal life. And can you imagine in that awkward stage as a young boy, your older sister is selling herself online, and all your friends could potentially buy the content? What if it was your mom? That happens. There are young men whose moms do OnlyFans. Can you imagine what it's like for them growing up? And my former colleague in The Federalist, Kylie Zempel, she wrote this article that I think is really interesting. It's called "Bring Back Slut Shaming." And the article, the headline is a little bit controversial, and she makes some really great points in there. It's not just about being mean to people online who you think are dressing immodestly. That's really not what this is about at all. In the piece, she argues that slut shaming should be revived as sort of a societal tool to discourage certain behaviors, like perhaps prostituting yourself online and humiliating your family. And I guess in her case, only her little brother, but this applies to brain rot too, because people who wear the pronoun buttons, can't define a woman, raise Palestinian flags on American college campuses, and then occupy the campuses to prevent students from walking to class. I'm still upset about that, you guys. They are also, I think, in need of some shaming, some social shaming that they're not getting. You wouldn't say these things or act this way. You wouldn't say chest feeding if society was not socially accepting of it. But on women specifically, and women's sexuality, there's sort of this oversaturation of nudity right now. These days, I think, actually, Gen Z is ironically less sexually active than their parents and even their grandparents. A huge percentage of Gen Zers admit to being virgins. There are people, I'm talking about in their mid to late 20s, still virgins, like a large number of them, way more than previous generations. Here's what I mean by nudity being exhausting and contributing to an ironically sexless culture.
I remember back in the day, I used to get so excited just to see a booty, bro. Now it's just everywhere. You get on TikTok, booty, ass, shake ass, Instagram, ass, titties, ass, titties, ass, titties. It's just like, where's the excitement? I'm not excited no more. I'm bootied out. Y'all have showed me so much ass, I'm numb to it. It's like seeing so many deaths, you just become numb to it. I'm not even excited to see booty no more. It's like, oh, bro, you see her ass? I just seen 37 other ones this morning. Okay, it's big. It's an ass. Y'all have took the joy of ass gazing out of my life. And that's something I prided myself on growing up. I used to love to just ass gaze. Now, y'all, I'm just numb to ass. Just keep it in your pants, man.
You guys, this is actually very deep. This is deep. There's something really profound here about the feminine mystique. The Federalist Madeline Osborne writes, "Before we were all bootied out, a woman's sexuality was not just mysterious and provocative, but the most powerful force on the planet. It drove men to face great risks, cross oceans, write ballots, and even start wars just for the chance to gaze at a woman's booty. Women held all the cards in intimate relationships." And I'll put it this way, there would be no Trojan War in 2025. We're all bootied out. We can't handle it anymore. Let's go, Michael says, let's go, Helen. Kylie then cites a feminist scholar, Camille Paglia, in this article. And this is a great bit where Camille really sums this up perfectly.
when I look back at the 1950s, okay, which I felt were suffocating because of the sexual polarization, I also felt that in that period, which let's say in movies, that was still, although it was breaking down, was still governed by the Hays Code, which had been adopted in the early 1930s. Okay, I feel that Hollywood, okay, in the period under the Hays Code, okay, the oppressive Hays Code, was able to suggest eroticism and an intensity, a sizzle, the sexuality, okay, that is completely gone now in this period where nudity is, any kind of nudity is possible, all right? So I've been forced, okay, to reconfigure my own, I used to, believe in the 1960s, like total liberation. Okay. I now realize that, that every social code, okay, containing taboos, okay, and the strictness of the code sometimes is and often in fact is an enhancement to eroticism. Okay, like for example, in the late 19th century, there would be a huge thing. If a woman showed her ankle, okay, there was like huge, an ankle, okay, incredible, right? It was like, in fact, Alfred Hitchcock had a foot fetish, okay, from the fact that as skirts went up, right? Every single film of his had high heels, the new high heels that showed off a woman's ankle. And slowly, more and more of women's bodies, would be exposed, okay, and the more that women's bodies are exposed, the less sexy they are, okay, all right, and so that's the thing, okay, is that. It seems to me that an informed view of the history of culture shows that every culture has invested taboos, and that the taboos ultimately cannot be totally erased. But the moment they're fully erased, the moment they're fully discarded, okay, you actually have an end to sexual interest, sexual intensity, sexual sizzle.
You take away the taboo and you take away the allure. The taboos enhance the neuroticism. You guys are going to make fun of me for this, probably, but you're saying I wasted all my college degree on pointless classes, but I did take a trimester-long class on Alfred Hitchcock my senior year of college, and it was amazing. I'm going to be honest with you guys, it was not a waste of my time. I loved that class, and I promise you, I took many more very serious courses in my college career, but I did take this fun Alfred Hitchcock class my senior year of college. And like I said, it was great. But for that reason, I have seen a shocking number of Alfred Hitchcock films. I took a class on it. And when I say like shocking number, I mean shocking number of Alfred Hitchcock films. And what I learned in that class is Alfred Hitchcock is kind of like what Camille Paglia was saying, the king of less is more. Alfred Hitchcock, for the majority of his career, worked within the framework of the Hollywood Hays Code that she was referencing. And this prevented sex and nudity and really just kind of created like a morality clause around what could be produced and come out of Hollywood. And Alfred Hitchcock somehow worked within this framework and managed to create scenes that are way sexier than anything that I have seen in modern memory. And this is just one example. This is Grace Kelly and Cary Grant in To Catch a Thief. Watch how intimate this is. It's just insane.
Look, John, hold them. Diamonds. The only thing in the world you can't resist. Then tell me you don't know what I'm talking about.
So if you're listening, between the like intimate moments and the kisses, you're seeing fireworks. It's kind of how he's suggesting the passion of the
Never had a
moment.
better offer in your whole life. One with everything.
I've never had a crazier one.
Just as long as you're satisfied.
You know as well as I do, this necklace is imitation.
Well, I'm not.
So no items of clothing are removed. Language is totally couched. It's not crass. I got one more for you guys. This one's shorter, I promise, but this is Grace Kelly and James Stewart. how are we making asking James Stewart about his broken leg this sexy? How was that possible? And again, like I said, Hitchcock was a master. And I'm telling you guys, this doesn't just apply to movies, it applies to life. But do you see what I mean about less being more? All we see in that last scene, it was Grace Kelly's face. That's it. Like just her face. And you know, Muslims and even some Christians, they take modesty to the point of not flattering women. I don't think God created women as beautiful as he did to put them in burqas. I don't think that. And Kylie Zempel writes in her article, for all their angry shrieking about misogyny, feminists are the ones who forfeited women's true sexual power. But we can restore it, not by covering every square inch of skin. We're looking for less return to Amish and more rediscovery of feminine allure. To make boobs and booties great again, flatter those features rather than flaunt or flatten them. Play to those curves without barring or androgenizing them. Show a bit of skin, but not most of it. Just a little something something to keep them guessing. When hoes leave nothing to the imagination, they take what was once intriguing and make it boring instead, and we can't let them get away with it anymore. And like I said, this isn't about puritanical prudery or Burka level cover-ups. It's about reclaiming that power, that mystery, flattering the feminine without flashing at all. We don't need to be thumbnails on a paywall. We have to captivate, not exhaust. And the hoes or the oversharers have turned intrigue really into boredom. And it's time that we stop settling for that. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I am here live on Rumble, 9 a.m. Eastern time, 5 days a week, rumble.com/Evita. You can also follow me on X or Instagram. My user is EvitaDuffy_1. I'll see you all tomorrow.
Hello, it's Haley, host of Nightly Scroll right here on Rumble. If you go to rumble.com/Haley, it'll redirect you to the Bongino Report channel, which is where my show will be. You'll be able to find me Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And this is just a preview, but we will be going live next week. So I hope you'll join me. In the meantime, I'll see you in the chat. Leave your comments down below and find me on social media at Haley Karania on all platforms. We got a big show for you and a lot of content. So first, Gavin Newsom admits that it's unfair for women to compete against trans athletes. It's all part of his plan to run for president in 2028, I predict. Holly Weird was on full display at the Oscars. We have an update on that very weird Halle Berry kiss. House Democrats embarrass themselves doing a TikTok trend, and finally a mic drop moment with Secret Service agent DJ Daniel. Nightly Scroll starts now. So Gavin Newsom has a new podcast. He says that he's not like other politicians. He's not like other podcasts. He's going to sit down and talk to people from the other side of the aisle, which of course people have been doing since the dawn of time. But okay, so Gavin Newsom's reinventing the wheel apparently. And he had Charlie Kirk on his podcast, Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. He did a lot of great work on campuses this season, this election cycle, changing hearts and minds on college campuses. So he had him on the pod, and Charlie Kirk kind of flipped the switch on him and asked Gavin Newsom his thoughts on transgender athletes in women's sports. Watch.
So like you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out say no.
No, and I appreciate
but like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that. There's also a humility and a grace, that these poor people are more likely to commit suicide, have anxiety and depression. And the way that people talk down to vulnerable communities is an issue that I have a hard time with as well. So both things I can hold in my hand. How can we address this issue with the kind of decency that I think, is inherent in you, but not always expressed?
I've seen enough. This is so interesting to me because Gavin Newsom, he He says the one thing to get on the good side of the right? He says, transgenders, it's unfair. It's more than unfair, it's unsafe. It's completely unsafe for women to compete against men. Women like Peyton McNabb, Trump honored her at the joint session of Congress on Tuesday night. He told her story. She was a volleyball player in college, and a transgender athlete on the other side of the net spiked the ball in her face, and she got a traumatic brain injury, which is horrible. So it's more than unfair, it's unsafe. And he's putting a Band-Aid on a problem, right? Because he's saying, he says on the one hand that it's unfair, but then he backtracks and he's saying that he needs to treat these people with kid gloves. He needs to treat them with kid gloves because they're mentally ill and they're more likely to commit suicide. Now, why is that? Why do we think that is? It's because instead of treating the mental illness, places like California are affirming it. And that's not how you make this problem go away. It's not how you fix the problem. It's how you make it worse. And we're seeing that. We can even take the trans issue out of it. I see this all the time with just plastic surgery in general, right? Because this transgender issue, it's just body dysmorphia on crack, right? So, take a woman, for example, who is insecure and she gets a nose job, and then after she gets the nose job she wants to get a hair transplant or a mommy makeover or a boob job or whatever. It's just the next thing, right? They're just slapping a Band-Aid on the problem. They're not fixing the issue, which is internal, and it's I have low self-esteem, right? So this is the same thing, and places like California and therapists in California and schools in California are affirming this delusion. It's sick. Then their conversation moved on to TikTok, actually, where Gavin Newsom said that even his own son has found Charlie Kirk on TikTok and is a big fan. Watch.
Last night, trying to put my son to bed, he's like, "No, Dad, what time? What time's Charlie going to be here? What time?" And I'm like, "Dude, you're in school tomorrow." He's 13. He's like, No. This morning, wakes up at 6 something. He's like, "I'm coming." I'm like, he literally would not leave the house.
Did you let him take off school?
No, he did. Of course not. He's not here for a good reason. But the point is,
you canceled school for like 2 years. One day.
The point is the point, which is you are making a damn dent.
Thank you. I'm kidding.
When you go to these college campuses, I love watching your TikTok, which is next level. And clearly, that's expressed by my 13-year-old son.
I want to meet this guy.
Yeah, I actually.
He's coming to a Turning Point event this summer, Tampa, Florida, Student Action Summit.
I actually, by the way, if
you should be concerned.
But actually, let me say,
you can pause it. That would be quite the sight, right? Gavin Newsom's son at a Turning Point USA. And I think Gavin Newsom's own parents, they're conservative, right? They moved to Florida. So I think Gavin Newsom's entire family is turning on him. But I think Gavin Newsom wants to run for president in 2028. And this is what he's doing. He's making these inroads with the right side of the aisle because I think he's seen how the GOP has embraced people like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., who were former Democrats, and now they're in Trump's camp, right? So I think he thinks, okay, well, I'm going to have this podcast and I'm going to talk to Charlie Kirk and I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to get people on the right to like me and then I'll run for president in 2028. We can't let Gavin Newsom gaslight us. Okay. And this is another thing I was scrolling through and someone commented, this is Tom Cooper 6042. He says, be careful. The left has perfected gaslighting. A snake that sheds its skin is still a snake. I couldn't have said it better myself. Do not believe the sneaky, slimy Gavin Newsom. He's just trying to get into your good graces for 2028.
Didn't this guy almost get kicked out of being governor?
People recall, they wanted to recall him. People in California don't even like Gavin Newsom. And like I just said, his own family doesn't even like Gavin Newsom. So anyway, speaking of California, Holly Weird is on full display at the Oscars. You might have seen Halle Berry. She's an A-list actress. She planted a kiss on Adrian Brody on the Oscars red carpet. And this was kind of her way of reviving an old viral moment from the 2003 Oscar red carpet, where they shared a kiss and she just thought that she would recreate it. Let's watch. Best Oscar moment ever. That was Georgina Chapman saying that. Adrian Brody's current wife. Halle Berry planted this kiss on Georgina Chapman's husband in front of her. I would literally go to jail. Like, if that was me, I would be in jail. I would be so mad. And apparently Georgina Chapman, she was fine with it. She said, it was quite the moment, wasn't it? I mean, how can you deny a man a kiss with Halle Berry? Well, you can deny it because that's your man and he shouldn't be kissing other women. But this is just an aside. Georgina Chapman is Harvey Weinstein's ex-wife, so maybe she's just used to a little of this Holly weird stuff. Very interesting. I know people hate Holly weird and they hate the Hollywood stuff and the celebrity stuff, but when they do weird stuff like this, I have to call it out because it's insane. And I would be in jail if that was my husband, seriously. I want to get into the scrolling portion of the show here. House Democrats have really royally embarrassed themselves. They took part in this TikTok trend and they did a really cringy job and it's just awful. Take a look. Bento box queen. Like, what? Hates balloons. What? 2 sprained big fingers? Like, what are they even doing? Is this supposed to make them, sympathetic characters? Are we supposed to think they're cool? Because I watch this and all I'm seeing is like really, really bad rhythm. Would you guys agree? Like, these people can't dance. It's not making them look cool. I don't know. It's not for me. But this is why this show is important, because I've been seeing a lot of conservative people on X. They're sharing this video and they're saying this can't be real. What is this? This is a TikTok trend, and these people took part in a TikTok trend, an existing TikTok trend. They didn't just come up with this. And you have to remember, these women, they probably have staffers in their 20s who are like, I saw this, this viral thing. Like, you guys should do it. It'd be great. And honestly, these people eat it up. Like, the left eats it up, and the left is pretty good at this social media thing. I think people on the right need to start making content, not as cringy as this, of course, but in other ways, meet their constituents where they are. Finally, we're going to end on a happy note because DJ Daniel is back. I know I talked about DJ Daniel a few other times this week, I think. But on Tuesday at that joint session of Congress, Trump honored DJ Daniel, a 13-year-old who beat brain cancer, and it was his life dream to become a law enforcement officer. And Trump named him an honorary member of the United States Secret Service. It was such a wonderful moment. And then he's been he's been in DC, he's strolling around, patrolling the White House. And here he did an interview with Natalie Winters. She's White House correspondent for the War Room, Steve Bannon's War Room. So take a listen to this.
Such an honor to have met you.
Hold up, I got one more thing to say.
He has one more thing to say. I won't interrupt you.
If you're a Democrat and you're being mean to President Trump, I'm on your bumper.
So based.
On your bumper. So based. Yeah, he is on your butt. So if you're thinking about bullying President Trump, think twice, because this Secret Service is going to be stuck on your butt. And this is the kind of protection we like to see, right? Protect and serve. On that note, that's all I have for you. Thank you for scrolling along with me, and make sure that you're ready for next week because we're going live at 6 p.m. Eastern time on Rumble, rumble.com/Haley. It'll redirect you to Bongino Report, where the show will live. I can't wait to chat with you down in the chat, so I'm excited for that. In the meantime, catch me on social media at Haley Karania on all platforms, and I'll see you then.
Good morning and welcome to Bongino Report Early Edition. Trump issues a cryptic threat to Putin. TikTokers mock Democrats' cringy social media posts. Gavin Newsom shifts his stance on transgender policies. Trump's honored guest at his... Okay, you guys, listen, we're in the new studio. There's going to be hiccups, so my bad about that. There's probably going to be other instances of this. We're still figuring it out. The tech guys have been here since like 10 p.m. every night for the last week and a half. So, but back to these headlines, just bear with us. Trump's honored guest at his joint address of Congress faced bullying and expulsion from her sorority. Male feminist Justin Baldoni is criticized for being too nice, can't do anything right if you're a male feminist, and Trump plays matchmaker for the stranded astronauts stuck up in space. All this on Bongino Report, early edition. President Trump gave Putin a really ominous message yesterday. Let's play that, Mikey.
When Zelensky inevitably comes back to the White House, what do you expect from him? And do you think you'll see him in a necktie?
Well, I think what's going to happen is Ukraine wants to make a deal because I don't think they have a choice. I also think that Russia wants to make a deal because in a different way that only I know. They have no choice either.
Okay, so really ominous message. And he says, okay, Ukraine, you're going to have to make a deal. And they have no choice. And we know why that is, because the U.S. is bankrolling Ukraine's war effort. They really do have no choice. So no U.S., no Ukraine war effort. But then he says Russia has no choice either. And Putin knows why. And Trump doesn't elaborate any further. He just says, well, I know what it is. They know what it is, but then he doesn't say anything else. And this is just classic Trump. This is Trump's MO. It's vague, it's cryptic, it's threatening. And by refusing to elaborate on why Russia has no choice, he forces Putin into this sort of psychological chess match, wondering what Trump might be planning next. This is the same playbook that President Trump used with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. One day, he was just calling him Rocket Man and threatening to rain down fire and fury. The next day, he's like meeting with him in Singapore. They're shaking hands like they're old friends. It's just like whiplash diplomacy. And it kept Kim off balance, de-escalated tensions, ironically, without really giving anything up. It was kind of amazing. And then he also did this with China, right? Trump imposed massive tariffs on Chinese goods, sending Beijing into this like economic panic. He sits down with Xi Jinping and says, oh yeah, we're great. We have a great relationship. We're totally chill. And China never really quite knew what Trump would do next, whether he'd escalate, strike a deal, forcing them into really a defensive position constantly, as with the rest of the world. No one knows what to make of Trump. No one knows what he'll do next. It's completely unpredictable. Now, with Russia, the ambiguity of his statement is a message itself. He might be bluffing. There could be nothing there, but that's beside the point. Putin has to wonder. It keeps him wondering, is Trump hinting at something military, economic, some secret leverage only he knows about, or is he just throwing words into the wind? The not knowing is what makes it effective. And what did Biden do in office? Predictable, bureaucratic, easily read by adversaries. Everybody knew how Joe Biden was going to respond to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Everyone knew this is a total predictable thing because Joe Biden was not really running the country. It was the deep state. And we all know what the deep state wanted, right? To support a proxy war, a Western proxy war between Ukraine and Russia. So of course they were going to go in full support. And Putin knew exactly what Biden would do in Ukraine. Like I said, it was sanctions, weapons, shipments, hands-off military approach. It was no mystery. But with Trump, this wild card factor alone forces a recalibration of how world leaders respond to the United States of America. And it's kind of awesome. And chat, you guys tell me what you think. You guys just watched the video. What was that a nice message? Did you view that as a nice message? I didn't. Would you say that was a friendly message? No. Would you say that perhaps Trump was being tough on Russia? Kind of sounded like he was being tough on Russia, I would say. And you wouldn't know that from the media coverage. We're still hearing that Trump is a Russian stooge, a Putin sycophant. Same thing we've been hearing for the last 10 years. It doesn't stop. That didn't sound like Trump was a Putin sycophant to me. And don't think it's just coming from left-wing corporate media personalities and outlets. I told you guys yesterday that alternative media isn't inherently better than the corporate press. I think it is better as a whole, but that doesn't mean that the individuals in it are all good actors and that we should all trust them. It's not what it means. And in the open alternative media sphere, you have the ability to choose who to trust. And some people are just as bad or worse than the corporate media, I promise you. The Free Press, founded by New York Times refugee Barry Weiss, if you know, you know, published this yesterday by neocon British writer Douglas Murray, and it's titled, How MAGA Lost Its Way on Ukraine. And it's gone pretty viral among the political right on social media. And the article argues that basically because online MAGA is dumb, it started to believe that this Russian propaganda, that Russia is better than Ukraine because Russia isn't globalist and Russia isn't woke. And then because of the Hunter Biden and Burisma scandal, Trump impeachment, MAGA just assumed that Ukraine on the other side is just all around corrupt and bad. We just have this bad view of Ukraine. We don't really know much about Ukraine, but we just hate it because of Burisma and because President Trump was impeached over that phone call to Zelensky. And then that Russia is just this great bastion of conservative principles or something because they're not woke. So Douglas doesn't argue why this is a wrong assessment that Ukraine is corrupt. He doesn't even go there. Ukraine is, of course, one of the most corrupt countries in Europe. This is indisputable. Instead, he simply writes, by this stage, Ukraine is not just a country that the MAGA right has never visited. It is a fantasy country that they imagine they know everything about, and all of it is bad. Perhaps they will manage to wade their way out of the memes, or perhaps they will find out the hard way that most of the American public may dislike woke, but they dislike dictators too, and that it is possible to keep both these dislikes inside one head and movement at the same time. So what's the ultimate argument here? MAGA likes dictators. MAGA loves Putin. We're crazy online lunatics who believe Russian propaganda, and America as a whole will reject the MAGA base's view of Ukraine and of Russia because we're so stupid and America doesn't like dictators. But is that what the MAGA base views Ukraine and Russia and Putin? Is that how we view that? Is that what we believe? Does MAGA love Putin? Because I haven't heard anyone say that. I don't say that. I don't believe that. I don't love Putin. The article quotes Steve Bannon saying that Russia is anti-woke, suggesting that this is somehow evidence for why Steve Bannon and the political right love Putin. But Bannon is right. Putin is anti-woke. But did Bannon ever say that he likes Putin? If he did, it'd be in the article. And this is the issue with neocons. In every conflict, there is a good and a bad, and we have to pick a side and we have to get involved every time. It is, in fact, possible that both sides of this suck. We don't have to like both. We don't have to pick a side. Both sides can suck, have nothing to do with America, and therefore we don't have to get involved. That's America first. This isn't that hard. But what more warmongers like to do, like Douglas Murray, is smear America first. They want to create a false narrative that MAGA loves dictators and they love Putin. And the real game here is to discredit America first by painting it as some kind of insane, dangerous pro-dictator cult, rather than what it really is, which is a movement that prioritizes American interests over endless foreign entanglements. The neocon playbook hasn't changed. They take any skepticism for decades now of interventionism and twist it into somehow support for whatever enemy they've decided that we have to fight. Wanting to avoid another costly, directionless war doesn't mean you admire Putin. Just like opposing Iraq didn't mean you loved Saddam Hussein. The reality is that most of the MAGA base doesn't see Ukraine as a beacon of democracy or Russia as this heroic alternative. They see war that isn't their fight. It's not our fight. You can't sell us another foreign war while our own country falls apart. That's not dumb, it's rational. And it's why war hawks like Douglas Murray have to resort to cheap smears that they can't actually support because they have no argument. This is an indefensible position. All right, you guys, female Democrat politicians uploaded what is being called the cringiest video of the year. This is how Democrats are planning to take on the political right. I don't know how this is going to work. You guys tell me, but this is the strategy right now. Okay, so that was Congresswoman AOC, Lauren Underwood, Catherine Clark, Judy Chu, Jasmine Crockett, Susie Lee, and they're in these fighting stances. They got their fist in the air. Like this is an Avengers team. They're going to take on Trump. The ladies got it. And if you can imagine, this was not very positively received because I got secondhand embarrassment watching that. I don't know about you guys, but I was embarrassed watching it. It was cringe. It was very, very cringe. And so the White House decided to respond with their own version of this trend. And the caption reads, America already chose its fighters last November. Take a look at this. So if you're listening, this is a very epic video. You're looking at Tom Homan, JD, Pete, Hegseth, Cash Patel, RFK Jr., all these guys. And the video did not give me secondhand embarrassment, unlike that first one, probably because none of these guys are bobbing up and down, fists in the air, like they're pretending they're in a boxing match. More generally, probably it's because they aren't embarrassing humans. Like there's a difference between Pete Hegseth and Jasmine Crockett. Like one of these people is humiliating to America, and it's not Pete Hegseth. Like this, Jasmine Crockett is, again, she's the dumbest member of Congress, but all these guys, they're just clowning themselves. One is cool. One shows Trump's cabinet actually doing work, and the other shows Democrats making fools out of themselves on socials in this desperate attempt to reach young people. And it reminds me of that meme. Do you guys know that 30 Rock meme? How do you do, fellow kids? That's what that is. It's like an old guy trying to act relatable to young people, and it's totally falling flat on its face. The left really thinks that they can TikTok trend their way to political power, and it's not even landing with young people. Like, okay, so obviously it's a turnoff to anybody who's over 30, but they think, okay, well, maybe we'll win the young people that we're losing so much traction with. Young people have not responded that positively. Remember how Jasmine Crockett posted this ahead of Trump's congressional address?
Hey, I'm tripping, I'm sliding, I'm riding through the back like buck. Must have on a beat, bro, deep boat, any rap. He a freak though, man down, call like Amber Lambs, tell him breathe. Let them boys to the cross, they walk around like thieves. What's up with these?
But you guys know I said I love that video. Like I can't even hate on her because that's exactly how I would imagine Jasmine Crockett spending her time in the office. Like she's just making TikTok videos. Like this is what her work schedule looked like. It's like TikTok video, then another TikTok video. When she takes a break, she scrolls on her phone, then she does another TikTok video. Like this is Jasmine Crockett's work schedule. But this was again not very widely positively received. Lip syncing to Kendrick Lamar did not play out as well as I think she had hoped. Jasmine Crockett had hoped. And here is one young TikToker's reaction. And again, this is emblematic of kind of the reaction to the very cringy choose your character video as well.
Folks, we got to do better, man. Like, this was something that kids would do, like her children. You feel me? Like, why are you guys up doing this type of stuff? And you guys are supposed to be elected. She's supposed to be an elected official, like an elected person, right? Or a person that works in the government. Shouldn't she be working with more maturity? Like, this is crazy, bro.
Yeah, it is crazy. You know, Republicans weren't always cool. Like that was not the vibe. I remember in 2008 when Obama first was running, and I grew up in a really left-wing area, and all the kids in class were like bringing Obama stickers in and like hanging up Obama signs in the classroom, and like the teacher allowed it because she was also very left-wing. It was not appropriate. I'll say that, like just not appropriate for the classroom in the midst of a presidential election. But all of these left-wing students were like all excited about Obama. And like, I was the one kid who was like, I was 8 years old, you guys, but I was like, John McCain, like, you know what I mean? Like, this is not cool. It's not fun. It's like this old guy, like nobody was excited about John McCain. Nobody was excited about Mitt Romney. The political right really was like yeah, I can't say that, Mikey. He's talking in my ear and telling me to say things that's going to get me in trouble. But, okay. Oh, you did. Oh, okay, great. All right. Thanks, Michael. But the political right was never cool, like never. And I always remember, like I was kind of the person who loved to be like a contrarian. Like I was like, yeah, I'll support John McCain, even though like all of you are supporting Obama. I hate you guys. This was not that serious, but it was not cool. Like it was a stretch to make this seem cool. my mom brought cookies of John McCain's face and like allowed me to hand him out to the class. And the kids took them because we're 8 years old. We didn't care about politics that much. They ate the John McCain cookies, even though they liked Obama. But again, the right was not cool. George Bush, John McCain, Mitt Romney, no, these are not cool guys. And then Trump comes along, he changes it all. The Democrats seem convinced that they can meme, dance, and virtue signal their way into relevance with young voters, and they're losing traction. Like the grip that Obama wokeness had on young people is gone. Like millennials who were really formed politically by that era, they are out. Like they are set in stone, right? I think that they are still trapped in that Obama era of woke. But people that are my age who are like politically awakening now, it's completely different. We are trending rightward. Young men up 30 points for President Trump compared to 2020. That's massive. Things are radically changing. The right's messaging generally leans into substance, leans into showing leaders actively engaging in governance rather than posturing for social media clout. And Trump, he'll go on podcasts, like he'll use alternative media. He does it, and he does a great job of it. But it's not unserious. It's not foolish looking. He is just going to where the people are at. They're using social media, this Trump team, but they're doing it in a way that's respectable. So the Trump admin is using it not in a discrediting way. And honestly, if anything, these failed attempts at virality reveal how little confidence Democrats have in their actual policies resonating with real Americans. When your strategy hinges on TikTok theatrics instead of tangible results, you're not campaigning, you're coping. And judging by the reactions, even the younger audience is viewing this as pandering and they're not buying it. And on that note, let's talk about Gavin Newsom and his new podcast, which is called This is Gavin Newsom. I can't believe that that's the podcast name, but yes, This is Gavin Newsom. And this new podcast is apparently being launched, well, it has launched, and it's aimed at reaching MAGA supporters. And this man really should be running the state of California instead of podcasting. But I will say, admittedly, that a Gavin Newsom podcast reaching out to the political right is a better strategy for Democrats than Jasmine Crockett's TikToks. So Governor Gavin Newsom decides to invite none other than Charlie Kirk on his show. And guys, here's how you know that the left is cooked right now, because Gavin Newsom's son is a fan of Charlie Kirk. I repeat, Gavin Newsom's son is red-pilled. Take a listen.
Last night, trying to put my son to bed, he's like, no, Dad, what time? What time's Charlie going to be here? What time? And I'm like, dude, you're in school tomorrow. He's 13. He's like, no. This morning, wakes up at 6 something. He's like, I'm coming. I'm like, he literally would not leave the house.
Did you let him take off school?
No, he did. Of course not. He's not here for a good reason. But the point is,
you canceled school for like 2 years. Once one day.
I love that. He's so quick. Charlie is so quick. And he did shut down schools. We lost, in some cases, 2 years of education in this country. And by the way, after the schools reopened, hundreds of thousands of students never returned. They're just lost to the system, totally unaccounted for. And yet Gavin Newsom can't let his son take off one day to go meet Charlie Kirk. I think Charlie said he was going to invite him to some Turning Point political action events. Like, that's amazing. That's incredible. And what's not incredible, by the way, is the suicide, depression, and anxiety that was sparked by Gavin Newsom's lockdowns. And what's so interesting is he's just like a regular guy. Like, oh yeah, I'm a regular guy. My son, he's like, he disagrees with me politically. He likes you. Like, it's totally chill. Like, he's trying to paint himself as a reasonable guy, and he's not reasonable. And it's true that COVID red-pilled a lot of young people. People like Gavin Newsom took away prom, sports, a college experience, social clubs, forced them to wear masks, take an experimental jab, sometimes to the detriment of their health. And it's even broader than that. I mean, this vibe shift that I'm talking about, that's wrapped up Gavin Newsom's son, Charlie Kirk articulated this really well. Why don't you take a listen to this?
One of the things we saw in the last couple of years that the Democrats completely ignored, and your side was basically not acknowledging was happening, was the crisis that young people were experiencing.
Right.
That, I mean, it's the first time in America's history that a 30-year-old is going to have it worse off than their parents.
Right.
It's a breakdown of the social compact.
Right.
They are the most alcohol addicted, most drug addicted, most suicidal, most depressed, most medicated generation in history.
Right.
And the message that was largely being fed to a lot of young people was lower your expectations. You're not going to have the same American dream that your parents would have.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw this as an opportunity, especially with young men.
Instead of lying to young people, the political right in recent years, including President Trump and Charlie Kirk, they validated the genuine feelings of young people, that something's been stolen from you. This is not the America of your parents and your grandparents. And you know what? A lot of right-wingers are genuine in not only acknowledging these concerns, but also doing something about it. There are some of you in the chat, you're like, oh, you guys are just lazy. You guys just spend too much money on Starbucks coffee. No, you guys, we all can admit America has changed dramatically. Like millennials are the first generation to not be better off than their parents were compared to the previous generation. So there is definitely something different happening in this country. There's been a shift, and the American dream really has been slowly taken away from future generations. And the political right in recent years, not the John McCain, Mitt Romney years, but in recent years has acknowledged those feelings in a really profound way that has brought into the fold a lot of right-wingers. Okay, Michael. Brought in a lot of right-wingers in unprecedented numbers. That's okay, Michael. You can keep talking. I prefer Michael talk to the audience than he just talk to me and say something, give his 2 cents. You guys, I know you prefer that. Good job, Mikey. I love it. I love it. You guys are in the show. And it's actually amazing that we can switch like this. You guys can get the full picture. I know there was always these complaints when I would do a show and then Michael would say something and he always said something very insightful. But then there's a pause, right? Because you can't hear what he's saying. Now he can talk. And you guys know what's going on. You guys are inside. This is what's so amazing about this new studio. So I'm excited about it. There's going to be probably some more hiccups still. We're figuring it out, but it's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Okay. I want to talk about why Gavin Newsom is doing this. This podcast is a stage where Gavin Newsom performs as a normal person, which he is not. It's like a skin suit he's wearing is like a normal person, and on the inside it's like a monster. And he's trying to create this idea that he has mass appeal. It's a strategic rebrand before a presidential run. We all know what this is about. This is a presidential run for Gavin Newsom. And how do I know? I will tell you. Gavin Newsom has signed some of the most radical transgender laws in the history of this nation. Laws allowing California to take custody of children for gender transitions without parental consent. Male inmates in women's prisons based on so-called gender identity. And this is why California has to give out condoms and birth control to female inmates. They're getting, in some cases, sexually assaulted by these male-identifying or female-identifying men that Gavin Newsom allowed in the women's prisons. Also prioritizing so-called gender affirmation over parental rights in family court and medical decisions. That's all Gavin Newsom, California. And yet suddenly Gavin Newsom is saying this.
So like you right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports, that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out and say no.
No, and I appreciate
but like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. So that's easy to call out, the unfairness of that.
That's easy to call out? What? Gavin, give me a break. You're the most radical trans insanity governor in the country. Does he think we're dumb? Do we not know what Gavin Newsom has done in California? And honestly, here's my thought. It's pretty transparent that none of this is genuine. The guy is a radical who wants to appear moderate because he wants to be president. He doesn't believe it's unfair. Clearly, he doesn't. Otherwise, he wouldn't be letting children gender transition without parental consent. We know what this is about, and it's not about a genuine change in a change of heart. And let's not help Gavin Newsom 2028 happen. Why are we helping him? Charlie Kirk went on his show, and I love Charlie Kirk. I don't think he should have done this. And I hope nobody else on the political right does Gavin Newsom's show, because he's using right-wingers to rehabilitate his image and do to America what he did to California. Let's not help him. And by the way, speaking of trans insanity, remember that young woman, Peyton McNabb, who was given a traumatic brain injury from this trans-identifying man in volleyball? Yeah, here she is on screen. She was honored by President Trump. She was at this joint address that he gave. And first, here's the moment that a man spiked a volleyball into then high schooler Peyton McNabb's face. This is what caused the brain injury. I mean, and there are so many instances of this, of young women getting really hurt because they're playing sports with men. And it seems like a pretty traumatic event that would justify some opposition to trans insanity. You'd think that everybody would give her a break for not liking the transgender insanity. But apparently I'm wrong about that. McNabb's sorority, Delta Zeta, actually expelled her on May 20th, 2024, after finding her guilty of violating the sorority's anti-bullying policy and of engaging in moral I'm sorry, I can't even read that, you guys. I'm sorry. It's just moral misconduct. And the bullying violation involves any activity reasonably perceived as being dehumanizing, intimidating, hostile, threatening, otherwise likely to evoke fear or physical harm, emotional distress. This is kind of what this is all about, right? And so accusing her of bullying and also accusing her of disrupting the sorority. So whatever that means. And what did she actually do? What did she do to deserve this expulsion from her sorority? Well, she calmly confronted a man in a dress in a woman's restroom, recording him, she said, out of fear for her safety. And she posted this video on X to warn other women. Here is this disturbing bullying event that the sorority expelled her for.
What are you doing?
Going to the bathroom.
Why are you in the girls' bathroom?
I'm a trans girl.
But you're not a girl.
Oh, we're doing one of these.
Yeah.
Interesting. Never had this before. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Yeah, I pay a lot of money to be safe in the bathroom.
Me too. Excuse me. Rude.
Do you think that's okay?
That was it. That was why she was expelled from the sorority over that. And I'll add, not by her sorority sisters, but by Delta Zeta's chief learning officer. His name is Will Frankenberger, a man who publicly espouses left-wing gender ideology and who led this disciplinary hearing and all of the procedures. And guys, I hate sororities. I hate them. In my experience, sororities, in their zeal to comply with progressive social movements, they seem to lose sight of the very values that they're supposed to champion, right? Sisterhood, safety, community, common sense. And all that goes out the window for sororities these days. The way McNabb was treated by Delta Zeta has been repeated time and time again. I actually tried to join a sorority at one point. I was a sophomore in college, and I learned later after I got denied that they said, well, she's in college Republican, so we don't think that her values align with us. So I didn't get in. Natalie Winters, who went to the same school as me, University of Chicago, she's Steve Bannon's fill-in host at the War Room. She actually was allowed into a sorority, and then I think she was eventually expelled or bullied out because of very similar circumstances. She actually criticized, I believe, trans insanity, and they were like, nope, you gotta go. Like, you don't align with our values. These are very, in my opinion, sororities are very hostile and controlling environments. They might not have been that way. I mean, maybe you guys, some people are like crazy about their sororities or obsessed with them. I don't get that, but if you are, you're probably coming at it from a place of what sororities once were. Right? What were sororities like in the 80s? I'm sure they were great. What are they like right now? Not a fan. And it probably depends on the school you go to, but the problem is the vast majority of schools these days are radically left-wing, and also young women tend to be radically left-wing. This is a difference between young men and young women these days. The political divide, the political gender gap divide is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger every second. So it's to the point where I think ideological purity over the protection and well-being of women has left young women like McNabb abandoned and punished by her sisters or the higher ups at the sorority simply for asserting the right to feel safe in a space meant for women. It's kind of absurd when you think about it. All right, we have to talk about Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. And the guys in the studio, they probably aren't happy about this. I've told Michael about this controversy many times, and he's sick of hearing about it. Guy told me that his wife is sick of hearing about the Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively drama as well. But we are going to cover it on this show. I haven't done it yet, but we're going to do it now. So there is a new development in this scandal controversy between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. I'm going to give you guys all the context you need before I get into it. here's a little rundown. So Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively recently starred in this movie. It's this romantic drama about this young, naive woman played by Blake Lively who falls for an older neurosurgeon played by Justin Baldoni. And Baldoni's character is actually eventually physically abusive toward Blake's character. So it's sort of this survivors break the cycle of abuse story. By the way, there's a power dynamic to this too, right? Like the Blake character is supposed to be really young. The Justin character is supposed to be older. I don't know. I thought Blake looked older than her co-star in this. It was like, it's completely inappropriate for Blake Lively, who's like almost 40, to be playing this woman in her young 20s, like early 20s. It didn't make sense to me. Yeah, Michael, how do you do fellow kids? It's very similar. Like, Blake, what are you doing? Like, pick a role that's more appropriate. But she was picked for this role. And I don't recommend watching this movie. I watched it. I made Michael watch it with me. He hated it. I didn't think it was that great. I didn't hate it as much as he did, though. Pretty cheesy delivery. Blake is not believable in this role at all, like I said. But what's really entertaining is not the movie, but the lawsuits that have come after this movie. Because, so August 2024, the film drops. By December, Blake's like, hey, Justin's harassed me on set, threw in these extra sex scenes. He made me feel really uncomfortable. And she's also at the same time accused Justin Baldoni of slut-shaming her. So it's kind of this weird paradox, right, where she's like, he made me feel really ugly. Or I'm sorry, not slut-shamed her, you guys, fat-shamed her. Fat-shamed her. She says, he made me feel ugly and fat after I just had a baby. But then also, he's super into me and he's sex-obsessed and he's a maniac and he just can't keep his hands off me. So she's saying both at the same time. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Blake files a complaint with California's civil rights, claiming he retaliated with a smear campaign to trash her. Text leak, the New York Times drops a bombshell about Justin's PR squad allegedly plotting to bury Blake Lively. So there's just this PR battle going on. They're both accusing each other of trying to destroy one another. And by 2025, it's just this full legal cage match. Justin slaps Blake and Ryan Reynolds, Blake Lively's husband, with a $400 million defamation suit in January, screaming, no, she's ruining me. And then somehow Taylor Swift is in the mix because of course she is. Blake's accused of flexing, rewriting scenes, hijacking edits, banning Justin from his own premiere, all while cozying up to Sony. So he's saying she tried to just take over this movie, and she's saying he sexually harassed me, and they're both saying that they both tried to destroy each other PR-wise. The whole thing reads really like petty Hollywood brats and not a sexual harassment situation. But the more we learn about Blake's harassment accusations, the less sincere this all becomes. So for example, Blake said Justin just barged in on her while she was breastfeeding her recently born child. But then text messages in this case reveal that actually Blake casually invited Justin Baldoni to her trailer while pumping breast milk. And this is a quote. This is a text that she actually sent to Justin Baldoni. I'm just pumping in my trailer. If you want to work out our lines. It doesn't seem like he was barging in on her. Blake Lively specifically cited in her sexual harassment filing as an instance of harassing behavior, a scene of the unscripted physicality of shooting a slow dance scene. She said Justin was inappropriate, he took it too far, he made her uncomfortable. So then Justin Baldoni's legal team released a nearly 10-minute long unedited footage of this scene. And here is the exact moment that Blake Lively cited in her lawsuit as making her so uncomfortable and being so inappropriate. And you guys tell me if Blake Lively looks uncomfortable here.
I feel so nosy.
I know. And my nose is so big.
Yes. I was hoping that we could address this. It's not too late. Just gotta shut down. We gotta call an insurance month and just deal with that.
Yeah.
And then
God.
just kidding.
No, it's true. That's why we hired Jenny Slate too. Our noses.
She's like tapping his chest. Like, what do you mean? She doesn't look uncomfortable at all. What is so inappropriate about this scene too? Like, the whole thing makes no sense. She doesn't seem uncomfortable, like I said. And here's the real kicker of the story. This is why I'm sharing it with you guys. It's actually really kind of culturally relevant on a much broader scale. Justin Baldoni has spent years building his brand as a woke dude bro, right? Teary TED Talks, men can cry too, the whole bit, right? This is Justin Baldoni. Here he is actually discussing Me Too.
Your strength, your bravery, your toughness. Can we redefine what those mean and use them to explore our hearts? Are you brave enough to be vulnerable? To reach out to another man when you need help? to dive headfirst into your shame? Are you strong enough to be sensitive, to cry whether you are hurting or you're happy, even if it makes you look weak? Are you confident enough to listen to the women in your life, to hear their ideas and their solutions, to hold their anguish and actually believe them, even if what they're saying is against you? And will you be man enough to stand up to other men when you hear locker room talk, when you hear stories of sexual harassment, when you hear your boys talking about grabbing ass or getting her drunk? Will you actually stand up and do something so that one day we don't have to live in a world where a woman has to risk everything and come forward to say the words "me too"?
I got a question for the producers box. Do you guys feel that you're brave enough, you're man enough to cry and be sensitive, to show that you're vulnerable? Mikey. I like that message. I think it was really more like Michael needs to listen to me all the time. Just believe everything I say and take my side no matter what, because I am a woman and therefore that's the right thing to do. That's true. He doesn't cry that much. But you have to be brave enough and man enough and strong enough to cry. That's the message, Michael. And this whole thing really, it aged like milk. Me Too did, but this specifically for Justin Baldoni, it aged like milk. Me Too's a boomerang, and it has whacked Justin Baldoni right in the man bun. So this is from the New York Post this week. Justin Baldoni accused of toxic positivity by former employees amid Blake Lively lawsuit. Quote, "It felt phony." So former employees at Justin Baldoni's company have accused him of performing toxic positivity, according to people who worked with him at Wayfair Studios. He said his bright demeanor felt insincere. You guys, you can't do right by these people. He's too nice. That was the complaint here. And this is, of course, all amid these accusations from Blake Lively that he was a sexual harasser. You can't win. Feminism, Me Too, it chews you up, it spits you right out. There's a campaign by Blake to destroy this man who thought that he was this incredible feminist ally. But we all saw this coming. The second Believe All Women hit the table, it became a free-for-all. I mean, think about how absurd it is. I'm like, Michael, every conversation that we have to have, right, believe me because I am a woman. Like, you have to take my side because I am a woman. Like, it's the same logic of some woman says, you know, I was sexually harassed or raped or whatever it is, and we have to believe them right off the bat. And of course, obviously, it's true sometimes, but not all the time, because women aren't saints. Women are people. Men and women are just people who are capable of doing really evil things and lying. And it kind of seems like perhaps, based on the evidence, the text messages, and the video, Blake Lively's lying here. Turns out it's less of a sacred mantra and more of a loaded gun. Anyone can grab it, point it, and fire. That is what Me Too is. Justin's out here flailing, trying to dodge the bullet, but the guy who swore he'd lift up women got taken down by that very movement he pandered to. You guys drop a comment. Tell me who's been watching this following this controversy. I don't know if you guys want to hear more Justin Baldoni, Blake Lively updates. I'm following it because I love this story for some reason. Every woman apparently is just like captivated by Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. And I don't know, the men might not agree in the chat. Certainly Michael doesn't. Guy probably doesn't either. But I love this story. I think it's so fascinating. Guy hates it. Guy hates this story. That's okay, you guys. Some people, everybody has their own cup of tea. So, but I do think it says something about Me Too and the way that it has really just destroyed all these male feminists. If you're a male feminist, if you're a guy who wants to get women, please don't be a male feminist. Like, there are better ways to attract women than being an insincere male feminist, because you're just going to lose. Like, that movement, it eats you up, it spits you out, because it's based on something ridiculous, a ridiculous premise that we should believe all women all the time, no matter what. That is a ridiculous thing to say. All right, I got to end on this. So astronauts, Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore, have been stranded on the International Space Station for the better part of a year. This is a crazy story, you guys, and it's been happening for a while. We covered it months ago, and they're still stuck up there, stuck up in space. Wilmore and Williams initially embarked to the International Space Station in June on a Boeing Starliner. It was supposed to be just an 8-day mission, turned into a 9-month nightmare after their spacecraft craft suffered from numerous technical issues, and NASA has decided it's too risky to bring the astronauts home. SpaceX has intervened, Elon Musk's SpaceX, and is set to bring back Wilmore and Williams to Earth aboard its Crew 9 return flight on either March 19th or March 20th, so pretty soon here. And Trump addressed this whole issue yesterday in the Oval Office during a press conference. And you guys, you can't make this up. This man, the words that come out of his mouth, never predictable. This is one of the best examples of just Trump being Trump.
But this president won't let it happen. We're going to get them out. We're coming up to get you. I've authorized Elon. I said, can you get them out? Because, they've been left up there. I hope they like each other, but maybe they'll love each other. I don't know. But they've been left up there. Think of it. And I see the woman with the wild hair, good solid head of hair she's got. There's no kidding. There's no games with her hair. But, and there's a danger up there too. They can have some failures up there that would be very bad. You got to get them out. So I've authorized Elon a week ago. I said, we have two people up there that Biden and Kamala left up there, and he knows it very well. I said, are you equipped to get him? He said, yeah, he's got a Starship, and they're preparing it right now. And so Elon is going to go up and
this is the crazy hair. I can't believe it. I can't believe he says she does have crazy hair. But again, this is like Trump, just like no filter. He's just like talking. He's just saying it as it is. And then he seems to suggest that these two are going to fall in love, I guess. Like they're going to fall in love. Star-crossed lovers. I don't know. Wild hair. I don't know. Honestly, it's just this rawness from President Trump that people love about him. They love it. I think in the age of social media where everything is just like so fake, so like plastic, even thinking like plastic surgeries, right, and fillers, like nothing feels real anymore. AI and the way that everything is so curated and not honest. That's what's so great about President Trump is like this guy is just like full honesty. He's an entertainer. He's culturally relevant. He understands how to work the internet. And at the same time, there's a realness to him. And the media has sort of seized on this clip from President Trump and saying it's horrible and it's wildly inappropriate. How could he do this? And that's pretty infuriating because Trump is brash, but what he's saying is true. What he's saying is true. And people can lose their minds over it being inappropriate. But honestly, it is way better that President Trump make these comments and be honest than what Joe Biden did to these astronauts, which is leave them up in space for political reasons. Take a listen to this.
Are you still rescuing those people that are stuck in the space station?
Yeah, that's coming up in a couple weeks, I think.
Whoa. They've been up there for how long, Jamie? They were supposed to be there for a couple days, right?
Actually, for like 4 weeks. Oh, they're supposed to be there. They were supposed to be up there for like 8 days.
Yeah.
And they've been up there for like, I think, 8 months. So a little longer than expected.
Fuck.
Yeah.
What is it going to be like for those people when they get back? They're going to be a wreck for a long time, right?
Yeah, if the longer you stay up there, you get, sort of in zero G, you get increased bone loss. So, it ended up being like this political football and sort of hotly contested topic. And we offered to bring them back early. This offer was rejected by the Biden administration.
Why?
For political reasons.
That's so crazy.
There's no way that they're going to make anyone who's supporting Trump look good.
Wow. What do you think they would have done if they had won? How would they get those people back?
No, they can only get them back with a spacecraft. But they pushed the return date past the inauguration date.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they would have let you do it, but after the wow. And so it would have been them authorizing you.
There isn't anyone else to do it.
NASA can't get them.
Only the SpaceX Dragon spacecraft.
Can you believe that? You have these people who are stuck in space for months for a supposedly 8-day-long trip, right? Like this is insane that they've been up there that long. And that the Biden administration wanted to keep them up there until after the inauguration. They didn't want it to seem like a Trump win somehow because Elon was aligned with President Trump. It's like, this is the most, like, that's really an evil thing to do. I think that's a really evil thing to do. And Trump is brash, it's true. And you can't script President Trump. And that's why people, they eat it up or they lose their minds over it. That's why the media is screaming this is inappropriate. That Trump said, oh, they hope that maybe they'll fall in love. But honestly, it's the same brash Trump they've always known, while the real outrage should be Biden leaving the astronauts in space for political reasons. That's not America first. That's not what a real leader would do. So we got to keep it into perspective, you guys. All right, that's all I have for you today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, for being with me, bearing with us in this new studio. There's going to be hiccups. It's going to happen, but things are going to get better. Michael and Guy are doing a great job. They're working really, really hard. So I appreciate them. I appreciate you guys bearing with me. As always, the show is live, 9 a.m. Eastern time, 5 days a week, rumble.com/Avita. You can follow me on X and Instagram at AvitaDuffy_1. You guys tune into Haley's show too. Her show is going to be live next week, but she's running these previews right now. They're really great previews. I've been watching them. I told Michael last night, I said, Haley really has a raw talent for this. Like, it took me some time to figure it out. Like, Haley has been really amazing, kind of like Dad at just like riffing and getting right in there. So she's got these previews right where you find rumble.com/Avita. You'll be able to find Haley's previews there as well. She's going to be going live next week at 6 p.m. So Eastern time. Dan Bongino has his last week coming up, so tune into his show as well. And Silverlog Studios is doing great things. We are growing, we're expanding. Vince is going to be launching right after Dan leaves, so there's a lot happening here, and I'm so excited to have you all on for the ride. I'll see you all next week.